Good.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. How's the baby?
She's doing well.
Good.
Hi, Diana.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Diane.
Good morning.
Great morning.
Good morning.
So,
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. We're just going to give folks a few more minutes to trickle in. Okay, good morning, everyone. We can go ahead and get started with just our meeting intro. This is a special meeting that's a joint committee meeting for the Maryland Food System Resiliency Council with both the Distribution and Access and Environment and Production committees. As many of you probably know, the nature of this call is to discuss updates for the Maryland food system as a result of recent federal action. And so we have some great speakers to help answer any questions and just give kind of a brief update about what's going on at the state level. And so with us today, we have the committee co-chair from Environment and Production and one from Distribution and Access, Nancy Nunn and LaMonica Jones. And so I will turn it over to both of them in a second. We have this meeting scheduled for the full 2 hours, which was the original time block for both committees to meet, although I do not believe that we will go through the full 2 hour window. So thank you for joining us early if you were planning to just attend the original Environment and Production Committee time. And with that, oh, I should also say, my name is Annika Lefebvre. I'm the Food Systems Resilience Coordinator with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. And this call is being recorded and will be posted to the council's website as soon as it's ready. And with that, I will turn it over to Nancy and LaMonica to say some welcoming words. Nancy, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you for joining this special meeting, and MDEM staff, thank you for organizing this meeting and everyone that agreed to present. It's a really important topic that I think's been on everybody's mind. And so we really appreciate the opportunity to have one big conversation rather than all the side conversations that we're all trying to participate in. So thanks for joining. LaMonica?
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. For those that I have not had an opportunity to meet before, my name is LaMonica Jones. I'm the director of Maryland Hunger Solutions. And I just want to, co-sign with what Nancy has shared. Just thank you all for joining us this morning. And I know that a lot of the conversations that we've been having, as well as a lot of the things that we're experiencing over the past couple months, especially following the passing of the budget reconciliation bill, have yielded a lot of questions. We want to just make sure that, we're in a position where we understand everything that's kind of coming down from the federal level while we wait for more state-specific information. But I just appreciate you all being here, as well as working together as at least in this space, with distribution and access and environment and production, to have a shared conversation on how we can address what's coming down the pipe for us. So just thank you all for being here. And Annika, I will turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you both so much. I'm just going to go over some quick scheduling updates, and thanks to everyone who's already introduced themselves in the chat. If you haven't done so, we would be so grateful if you could include your name and organization to let everyone know who is here. Just some updates regarding the council's schedule. There's no committee meeting for either committee in August. We're taking a little summer break. The Communication and Coordination Committee will next be convening on September 10th, and that will be for the Food Council Collaborative. Local food councils have the opportunity during this meeting to kind of provide updates and share resources with one another, but it is open for anyone to attend. The next Distribution and Access Committee meeting will be on September 18th at 10 a.m. and Environment and Production will meet on the same day at 11 a.m. And the full council is going to meet on September 25th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And just to highlight that this was updated, it used to be on October 2nd, but that is actually Yom Kippur. So we have moved it up so it didn't conflict with the holiday. And then we are still in the process of making revisions to the 2025 annual report for the council. So if you have not yet read through it and are an appointed council member, please take a moment or a few moments to do so in the next few days and provide any feedback you would like to share with us for the final draft. Any questions about any of that? You can feel free to shoot me an email too if you have any concerns or questions about the report or the schedule. And so this is just highlighting that feedback is due on July 22nd.
Ms. Lafe, submitting what is called input or feedback deadline is set for today, right?
No, it is, July 22nd. It could be that was the previous date. We pushed it back a little bit to allow state agencies more time to provide feedback earlier on. So we have until July 22nd to receive feedback from council members.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and Dr. Karki, just as a follow-up, make sure when you do the feedback that you send it on that Excel spreadsheet and send that back. So providing the feedback within that sheet is important.
In that shared Excel sheet, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you. It's very helpful for us. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Lansing. Okay, anything else before we get into the meat of today's agenda? All right, so we have the Food Research and Action Center here with us. I believe, Gina, are you here? Well, Monica, do you know if someone was able to join from FRAC today?
Gina should have been able to join. She just said she was going to be here. I can send her a quick, I know she had a hard stop at 10:30, but I can send her a quick message, or I'm happy to jump in with the updates just so that we can keep the meeting going.
Okay, either way is fine. Well, Monica, which do you prefer?
Okay, I'll send her a quick Slack message to see if she's able to join us.
Okay, we'll circle back to her if she is able to join. Okay, So the Maryland Department of Agriculture, Mark and Karen, I believe, are going to provide some updates. Are you two ready?
Sure. Actually, it's going to be 4 of us,
Oh, okay, great.
and I'll start it out. So the impact of the budget reconciliation bill on agriculture in Maryland generally actually is good in the sense that the commodity producers will receive more over time. I talked with Jim McDonald with the University of Maryland. He's the ag economist there, and they're projecting that Maryland farmers would receive $65.5 million from 27 to 30 after it goes into effect. So, you know, that'll help those producers. Most of that actually is would benefit. 64% would benefit the Delmarva counties: Dorchester, Kent, Queen Anne, Somerset, Talbot, Wacomico, and Worcester. There's increases in federal support for commodity programs and crop insurance. There are changes, however, which will reorient some money in the EQIP and programs away from practices viewed as climate friendly. But the details will have to wait for a farm bill. And there's some discussion now if there will be a farm bill, because much of what would have been in a farm bill was accomplished in this legislation. They're talking about perhaps a mini farm bill or something like that, or a skinny farm bill. So that's just a snapshot of production ag. And then Martin, do you want to go next?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I just wanted to talk briefly about the Regional Food Business Center initiative. So that's not directly tied to the federal bill, but of course implications in the announcement that the Regional Food Business Center programs are being terminated completely. For those not familiar, I think our team's going to talk a bit about RFSI, which is Resilient Food System Infrastructure Program, a USDA initiative. There was also the Regional Food Business Center initiative, which was USDA funding $30 million to designated regions responsible for standing up what was known as a regional food business center, while also programming around some technical assistance resources, while also establishing some sub-award grants, what was known as the Business Builder Grant. There were a total of 12 regions. 8 of the 12 regions, to include the one we are included in for the most part, is the Northeast Regional Food Business Center, at least started their first round of Business Builder Grants, and that it seems to be respected. So we do expect a little bit of funding through this first round, but there was several $1 million expected to be available in future rounds, which at this time we don't expect to be available. The Regional Food Business Center Business Builder Grants were upwards of $100,000. If you're familiar with RFSI, it leaned a bit, this RFBC leaned a bit more towards the equipment purchases and not so much the infrastructure projects. It was going to be a really great gap filler for some of the RFSI initiatives that did not receive funding. We don't know exactly how many Maryland applicants are getting awarded, but we do know that there was about 55 awards across the region to be announced. Maryland being one of 11 states in that region. It might not be more than a handful, but at least that is some significant investment. But that is a disappointing news, as there was a lot of technical assistance tied to these initiatives, and that's something that we are now aware of and going to have to work around. Thank you, Mark.
Karen, you want to go next?
Sure. Great. So following up on what Martin said regarding RFSI. So as many may know on the call, is that Maryland Department of Agriculture received like $3.8 million, and they're to run a competitive grant program. This is in 2023. And so out of that, there was 2 grants within RFSI, which was the equipment only, and then the infrastructure grants. We still have not received final approval for our state plan yet. and we're still working through the process to get approval. What we're seeing is NEPA review, because all projects need to go through a NEPA review process, and so that is that's taking longer than expected for with USDA. But the good news is it has gone through the review, and we are still expecting our funds. The other thing what USDA has done is they have accelerated the deadlines for these projects. Originally, they were supposed to be done by May of 2027. And now what they're telling us is for the equipment only grants, those are the smaller grants, which are $100,000. They need to be done, or the equipment needs to be purchased by December of 2025. And then the infrastructure grants the things need to be purchased. They don't necessarily need to be installed, but they need to be purchased by December of 2026. So they have greatly accelerated the deadlines. And so we're just waiting to hear back from USDA regarding that. Regarding the especially crop block grant, in which I am minister, it is connected to the Farm Bill, and so far as everything we're proceeding as is. There was a little delay on USDA's part in terms of the deadline this year, but we got it in on the deadline, and we're remaining hopeful that we're going to still receive the funding. So, and that's usually actually our funding did increase by $50,000 this year, so that was a good thing, because the funding is based on a formula based on cash receipts of specialty crops and land, and so we received approximately $450,000 this year for grants. And as many of you may have known, is that we're so excited that the Maryland market money has transitioned over to MDA as of July 1st. And we have Christina online, and so she could just give you an update about the program.
Thanks, Karen, and hello, everyone. It's good to see you all under this in this different capacity. So as Karen mentioned, the Department of Agriculture has announced the transition of the Maryland Market Money Program from the Southern Maryland Agricultural Development Commission, or SMATIC, to the department effective July 1st. The move comes after the passage of legislation during the 2025 Maryland General Assembly legislative session authorizing the relocation of the program. Operating MMM under the Maryland Farmers Market Nutrition Program, or FMNP, within the department's agriculture and seafood marketing program will streamline operations, increase efficiency, and enhance food access for Marylanders. The alignment also strengthens the state's capacity to support farmers while improving the shopping experience for residents who rely on federal nutrition benefits. Customers will see no interruptions to the service. Just want to state that for everyone. We have a recent press release, so I'll make sure to include that in the chat, as well as my new contact information as the Food Access Programs Administrator. I also wanted to note that the department and the Maryland Market Money Program are prepared to meet the increased need created by the recent SNAP funding changes. We remain committed to helping Marylanders stretch their federal nutrition benefits by connecting them with MMM access points, where they can essentially double their dollars and access fresh, locally grown food while supporting our state's farmers. Again, I'll put my contact information in the chat if anyone has any questions, and just happy to provide that update. Thank you.
Great, thank you all so much. And so I'm seeing some questions coming into the chat already. We're just going to ask folks to hold their questions until after everyone's briefing, and then we'll do a Q&A session if that works. But you can go ahead and put your questions in the chat, or when we get there, we'll do a raise hand process. Okay, I don't think that Gina has joined yet, so I'll turn it over to MSDE. Do we have Leslie Sessom-Parks here to provide an update?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks, Leslie.
Okay, great. So yes, Leslie Sessom-Parks at MSDE. I am on the nutrition side, but there have been impacts on both the education side of the house as well as the nutrition side of the house. So just a quick overview on the ed side of the house. The reconciliation bill, as you probably are aware, creates a major voucher program, which there is concern that it will divert funds from K-12 education. Most of the cuts that people refer to are in higher education. As a result of not the reconciliation bill, but what's going on in, in terms of the state budget, which is, indirectly related to all that's happening federally. The state, in terms of education, received over a cut of over $2 million. And although the feds have appropriated monies for our professional development, multilingual learners, and after-school programs, those are titles 2 through 4, that money has not yet been dispersed. On the nutrition side, the biggest impact, of course, has been the cuts to SNAP. SNAP is a key qualifier for automatic certification for students to receive free meals. So this is a big hit. The cuts to SNAP also eliminates nutrition education support that is provided in schools and other related programs related to nutrition education, and will eliminate lots of jobs. With the cuts to SNAP, the administrative burden for schools will increase as they will now have to do more paper applications for meals. Also, the bill itself reduces eligibility for automatic certification to receive free meals as a result of the cuts to Medicaid. And because of the combined cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, CEP is impacted. These cuts will now make it more challenging for schools to meet their CEP percentage to qualify for free and reduced meals. On the positive side, if you will, the new bill will require that LEAs include an eating disorder prevention and education component to their school wellness policy. That was a surprise to many of us. And it also takes an unusual move to expand access to non-congregate meals in the National School Lunch Program and in the School Breakfast Program. Normally we see this in the summer program, but the bill has expanded it to these others. Let's see, what else? Some minor things. The bill allows for organizations with some stipulations to file one application to administer both the Summer Food Service Program and the CACFP program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which will only really affect the schools, the public schools, the public LEAs that really operate summer food, as well as at-risk and supper. And I think my last point is that the bill encourages more procurement of local food purchasing across various federally funded programs, and wants to reduce the barriers for procuring with small local producers. So that's it for MSDE.
Great. Thank you so much, Leslie. We have next in the queue, University of Maryland Extension SNAP Ed, and then I think Aaron is here to talk about that, and then we'll turn it back over to LaMonica to provide the update from the Food Research and Action Center. Aaron, do you want to go ahead?
Good morning. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you so much, Aaron.
Great. Good morning. It is good to see so many friendly names and faces this morning. So I am the Assistant Director for Maryland SNAP Ed program. I know many of you, we either have worked together, currently are working together, but in case there's a couple of folks that don't know who we are, what we do, we are a federally funded program. that provides nutrition education and also work on promoting healthier environments, policies, and systems and changes across the state in order to increase healthy food access and benefits redemption for food insecure and low-income populations. So we have about 700 community partners across the state, primarily public schools, Head Starts, Judy Centers. We also work to support local farmers and farmers markets and food pantries. We're working collaboratively at the state level and local level to support school wellness policies, the mission behind community schools, benefits authorization for farmers, and then connecting local food producers with pantries and the low-income communities. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we do. Last year, we reached about 424,000 folks across the state. We have over 70 employees in every county in Baltimore City, and we're looking at a federal allocation annually of about $6.5 million. So the sad news that you have likely heard at this point is that reconciliation actually eliminated SNAP-Ed funding effective September 30th of this year. So we have just a couple months left of funding and knowing SNAP-Ed as it is. We are, there's some hope still at the kind of federal level and national level that, and work to support looking at appropriations for fiscal year 26 funding. So there is certainly work being done at the kind of national advocacy level related to actively finding support to advocate for that to be included. However, kind of at this time and locally, we are working with our state collaborators and our local collaborators, really just trying to work hard to finish the rest of the fiscal year out and serve our communities the best way that we can. So we're really focusing on last trainings and supply dissemination for implementation of sustainable changes to, policy systems and environments at the sites with which we work, and really trying to finish strong and do well by the communities that we serve. So lastly, we are exploring conversations to see how some of this work can continue after September 30th when our funding is cut. So that's the slightly dismal update from SNAP-Ed.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks for
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do have a kind of 2-page document that I can pop into the chat that just gives a summary of SNAP-Ed's reach and impact and basically what will be lost as a result of the budget reconciliation. If that's helpful. But yes, I'm here for any questions and further discussion as well.
Perfect. Thank you. And that document, I think, would be very helpful. So thanks for providing that too.
And just while I have the floor for a brief second, we have worked with so many of you, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for your partnership, and it has been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, we're going to jump back to the Food Research and Action Center. LaMonica, do you want to provide an update?
Yeah, so thanks, Annika. So I will go over the updates that are impacting SNAP with the preface that we haven't received official guidance from DHS. And so we are waiting to better understand what these impacts will be to the state of Maryland, but they are essentially effective, many of them effective as of bill passing earlier this month. So the first thing that is impacting Maryland, number one, that was not directly connected to the budget reconciliation bill was our able-bodied adults without dependent, our ABOD waiver, and so our ABOD work requirements. And so that waiver expired as of July 1 of this year, and that was a statewide waiver. So currently the entire state, all of our SNAP clients must abide by those work requirements, which state that if you are a recipient, you must work 20 hours per week, and that 20 hours consists of either a traditional paid work opportunity, SNAP, ENT, or volunteering. And there is a 3-month grace period for our SNAP clients. The biggest change with the ABOD waiver, the ABOD work requirement coming out of the budget reconciliation is currently the age for work requirement is 18 to 54. That will now be 18 to 64. So we'll see an increase with the number of households between 54 and 64, and that will now have to follow those work requirements. In addition to that, the age of a dependent has been decreased. So currently it is 18 and under. With this new provision in the budget reconciliation bill, a dependent is now anyone considered 14 and under. So if you have a child between the ages of 15 and 17, they're currently, they will not be considered a dependent. And again, these new requirements went into effect immediately, but we don't have guidance specifically from DHS just yet. The other, all of this is really important, but the next piece of the provision that is of high importance is the cost sharing. So currently USDA pays 100% of the cost sharing for, pays 100% of the benefit for SNAP. So 100% of those costs come from USDA. Once this goes into effect in FY28, we are looking at a 50% cost share. We're looking at a cost sharing for the state. The way this cost sharing will be determined is based off of the state's payment error rate. And for those that may not be familiar, a state's payment error rate is their overpayment or their underpayment of SNAP benefits to their client. The one caveat to this is because Maryland's payment error rate is over 10%, there is a one-time flexibility that says the state will be able to extend this out or take advantage of this one-time extension of this that will allow them this provision not to go into effect until 2030. So there still is some time, but again, we haven't received guidance from DHS or Secretary Lopez on how they will move forward with this. And I know that the state is currently working on and making improvements to their current payment error rates. The other piece of this is the administrative cost sharing. And with this administrative cost sharing, currently states have a 50% split with USDA for administrative cost. All states will now be required to pay 75%. So it will be a 75-25% split with USDA, with states having to pay that 75%, which is putting an additional administrative burden on our state's budget to cover these costs, along with many, many other states. There is a link, I believe there is a document that has been drafted to show what our administrative cost sharing was previously and what it could potentially look like going forward. But again, no direct guidance yet on exactly how this is going to be administered. What we are bracing for is the potential cut to services and how we're going to have to balance the administrative cost with our the other needs that we have across the state. And this is something that all states are having to deal with. I appreciate you, Aaron, for mentioning SNAP Ed, because that was on my list. I was going to mention that, but now I don't have to. The other piece for this is the utility allowance. So there's a standard utility allowance that is utilized for our SNAP clients. And so internet is now no longer going to be considered a utility allowance. And so that is going to impact all of our households because, of course, we are reliant fully on the internet, whether our students are using it for school, whether clients are using it to locate jobs or for their current jobs. So there will be impacts to no longer being able to consider our internet expenses as a standard utility allowance. And the last, there's several other in here, but these are the kind of the most pressing pieces. This one came out last Friday, and it impacts our mixed status households, our immigrant families, and that is the notice that came out of several agencies yesterday. last week stating that our public benefit program will no longer be eligible for certain immigrant households. And for SNAP, this is primarily going to affect our asylees, our refugees. They are currently eligible for SNAP benefits. If you are asylee or refugee, if you are undocumented but you have a child in your household, you're typically eligible for benefits. If you follow the other SNAP provisions. There was notice that came out last Friday from several agencies that backtrack this. And so we are monitoring this. Again, there hasn't been official guidance. There have been several states that have come out and spoken very publicly against this, but this is a major concern for us. It will not impact school meals, summer EBT, and WIC, but we are looking at our other households and the indirect impact to this, because we are hearing of households that, at least from our side, our immigrant big status households that are requesting, they don't want to participate in SNAP any longer. They are wanting to just have nothing to do with the program just because they're concerned with their status and being targeted. So these are questions that we've reached out for further guidance from DHS on how it's going to impact our households, but these are the probably the top provisions within this budget reconciliation bill that are immediately impacting our SNAP households. And it will be devastating for everyone, particularly our older adults. Students will not be, our children will not be barred from benefits, but we're looking at, their parents and their caregivers and things of that nature. So this will have some detrimental effects on our SNAP eligibility throughout the entire state. So those are my high level top updates.
Thank you so much, LaMonica. We have some questions coming in the chat, which we will get to. Thank you. The Maryland Food Bank next. Anne, are you here to provide a quick update?
I am here. So I'm Ann Wallerstedt. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations and Strategic Initiatives at the Maryland Food Bank. And we actually just yesterday were able to crunch a few numbers to figure out what the impact of these SNAP cuts specifically, although of course we do recognize that a lot of the other cuts, like for Medicaid, are going to impact our same populations that we're serving. But we're particularly concerned about the cutting of food assistance benefits. So at a very high level, we know that based on how many meals that the Maryland Food Bank serves annually, last year was around like 44 million meals across our service area. We would have to increase our food distribution efforts by 2.5 times to be able to meet the need that we're anticipating is going to come from these SNAP cuts. And then assuming that people are going to come into the charitable food assistance network to be able to make up that food. Just from a financial standpoint, of course, that's not realistic. We're just not going to be able to meet that need. But also from a logistical, from an operational standpoint, I mean, this really is going to put a strain on the charitable food system. I think it goes without saying that we've been through crises before, right? Like the pandemic was, of course, a massive strain. And we're there, we're here, we're stable, we're reliable. Our partners are on the ground, day in, day out, distributing food and helping our neighbors who are facing food insecurity. But that doesn't mean this is not going to be really, really challenging. We're also particularly concerned about how the state is going to handle all of these changes. We're definitely in conversation with DHS, of course, Maryland Hunger Solutions, really anyone who's really trying to figure out how we can handle this, meet the need, lessen the impact on the state budget. But I think LaMonica really said it clearly, this is going to be hard. It's going to be really hard for Marylanders. And it's going to be really hard for the charitable food system to be able to make up some of these numbers. We have a few other stats, about the food retailers that we partner with, you know, the dollar amounts that we're anticipating that families are going to lose annually just from SNAP and having to come to the charitable food system, that we're going to put out in probably a press release or something more public very shortly. But yeah, I mean, I think Joe from the Capital Area Food Bank's probably going to say something extremely similar, that, you know, the food bank network, we're here. We're always going to be here. We're not going anywhere, but this is going to be really a significant challenge for us to take on just by ourselves.
Thank you so much, Anne. And Joe, would you like to say anything from the Capital Area Food Bank?
I'd second everything that LaMonica and Ann have said. The one analysis that we have been using that hadn't come up is Urban Institute did a microsimulation of the effects. And essentially with SNAP, every SNAP household is going to get affected by this bill because benefits will not be allowed to keep pace with inflation because of something called the Thrifty Food Plan. But the work requirements, the standard utility allowance, heat and eat loss means that some families are going to see much larger impacts. And Urban's analysis in Maryland is that about a quarter of beneficiaries in the state are going to see a benefit reduction of over $25. And the average benefit cut that those families will experience is $150 a month. So there is a targeted population that we think will be most impacted by this bill. And I think we can tailor some specific efforts at them, both on the administrative side and opportunities to use state flexibilities to try to minimize that, and then think comprehensively about how we make sure that they don't fall off the cliff in terms of groceries for their families. So it's, you know, it's not as if we're going to see all 80,000 households in Maryland lose $150 a month in food assistance. But there's a big subset, 20,000 families that are likely to lose, you know, a week or two worth of groceries. And those are the families that we are most, we think deserve the most attention in thinking through administrative flexibilities, exceptions, new policies, and the philanthropic and charitable assistance that Maryland Food Bank, Capital Area Food Bank, and lots of other nonprofits do to serve them. The other thing we want to keep in mind is that this is all in the context of another $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts that will slash our health system, create real stresses to one of the nation's best hospital payment systems. And at the individual level, not being able to afford to see a doctor or having to pay higher copays will mean that that money is not there to pay for groceries. So the interaction effects are tremendous, and it's going to take a while to figure all of them out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. And last but not least, do we have Lindsay Smith here to provide an update from the COG Farm Committee?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for giving us a spot on the agenda. And I just want to thank everyone who's spoken so far and is working in this space. This is tremendously informative for us. So if we have not connected before, the Council of Governments is the metropolitan planning organization for the District of Columbia. Northern Virginia and suburban Maryland. We do a lot generally around regional transportation planning, but among some of our other programs is a regional food systems program. And our farm policy committee, which several folks here are also members of, along with our elected officials from the region, will be meeting this Friday to look at a range of federal changes that have taken place that have been referenced here. Obviously, those in the recent bill that was signed into law, but also previous executive orders, trade and tariffs. And so I will drop the link in the chat to the agenda, which also contains the Microsoft Teams link. All are welcome to join. It is from 10 to 1 tomorrow, but the virtual portion will end before noon. And so, yeah, please join us if you can. I think one question that I would really love to pose to this group is, when do you think we could expect more specific data and understanding on what number of our community members may be affected by some of the major changes that that are in the bill, in particular, understanding that there's really some complexity to some of the interactions that Joe spoke to, but also just existing programmatic rules for eligibility. So if I could leave that with a question for everyone, I will put the link to the agenda in the chat now.
Great. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And now we have time for questions. Please go ahead and put your virtual hand up if you'd like to ask a question, and make sure to say who the question is for specifically to help us navigate this. We can start with some questions in the chat if that is best. So for the Maryland Department of Agriculture, Joe Liu had asked a question regarding TFAP. It says the OBBB extended the TFAP Farm to Food Bank program that supports shipping and packing of donated crops. I believe Maryland does not participate, mostly because of the 50% match and the small potential allocation of $70,000. Is that correct? Is there any interest in re-looking at the Maryland Department of Agriculture?
So I think, yeah. We'll look into it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, and from Dr. Karki, is Maryland Department of Agriculture able to share any grants available for small-scale farmers to apply for in the coming months?
So right now, the only thing we can think about is probably the urban ag grant that we have available, but like for the portfolio that I manage, I do not see any grants coming available, but that doesn't mean that they won't be, but for right now, no. And then also like our urban agriculture, I guess my question would be is like what exactly you're looking for in terms of funding for the small farmers, and that might help too.
Dr. Karki, was there any, oh, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the quick update. I'll get back to you through email. That way I can ask so many questions I may have.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one I had for the Maryland Department of Agriculture, Mark, you mentioned the mini farm bill. Could you say a little bit more about what would be excluded from like a traditional farm bill in this mini farm bill, and like how likely that is? Do you have any additional information on what that would look like? It's okay if the answer is no. Thank you, Department of Ag team. And then there were a couple of questions that looked like they got answered from MSDE. Yeah, Lauren, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Thanks, Kanika. I just wondered, while we're still on the topic, and I'm not sure if this question is for Martin or Karen, but I was interested in when it was presented that the Conservation Reserve Program is now diverting funds away from any climate-friendly practices. And I'm just wondering if you have a little more detail on that. What practices are now sort of, not supported in the bill?
No, I don't, but I can do some research and share that with Annika, and she can share it with the group.
Sure. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay, the questions for MSDE that were in the chat. Heather had asked, she said, I understand that school districts have multi-year CEP agreements with USDA, so the school eligibility impacts might not occur for a few years. Leslie confirmed that that's true. And Lindsay Smith had asked, do Maryland school districts have the same number of years remaining on their CEP agreements, or does it vary? Leslie said that it varies. Were there any other questions for MSDE? Okay, and oh, go ahead, Heather.
Sorry, I was slow on the unmute button. But I actually just was hoping, I wanted to make sure I understood what Leslie shared about the changes to the congregate meal rules. So if you don't mind, there's just so much information. If you don't mind just kind of repeating or clarifying, is it saying that non-congregate settings are allowed through the NSLP?
That's what the bill is stating, non-congregate for NSLP and school breakfast. Let me pull up my note here.
Which would be a really significant change.
Yes. Hold on, I'm looking. Yeah, expand it. So the bill expands access for non-congregate for NSLP and school breakfast, which is, typically it's been for summer. So this is a major change.
Is there an entity that's kind of leading the information sharing about these impacts with the individual districts? Because I hadn't heard that. And so I just want to kind of make sure that we're tapped into where resources are coming from so we can make sure our colleagues in the district are aware too.
Sure. So we receive a newsletter from it's forwarded to us. It's I don't receive it directly. Someone in our organization receives it and sends it to others. And it's an attorney who has, broken out components of the bill that are relative, particularly to the nutrition team, and sends these details to us. So I don't know if it's something that can be forwarded or not, but the attorney works very closely with ACTA and ASBO.
Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you so much, Heather and Leslie. Dr. Lansing?
Yeah, I was just going to follow back up to the question about the climate-friendly practices. I haven't seen anything. What I have seen, and I want to know if this is true, if anyone's seen anything else, is it's based on the research. So all the climate smart commodity grants were mainly canceled. I had a $5 million climate smart commodity grant with University of Maryland Eastern Shore that was canceled. And my understanding is a lot of it was based on funding for research. If it's funding for equip and practices and other things, I haven't found that information. So I just wanted to clarify, Mark, when you're looking for that information, if you're seeing something that's non-research based, that's specifically for farmers, please let me know, because I haven't seen that information yet. All the information that I've seen about the reduction in funding for climate smart, climate friendly practices have been based on cutting of research programs in that area.
Okay, it actually comes from your colleague Jim McDonald and the AgriCon department. So I'm gonna ask him.
Yeah, I'll see Jim tomorrow, so I can check with him as well. But I haven't seen any information, so I'm just, if there is information out there, just let me know. Yeah, Dr. Karki, did you have information?
No, exactly. Not exactly, but in line with your grant project, I also had 1.2 million climate smart grant, and that was terminated. That I just wanted to share that shared news with you all.
Yeah, that's been my understanding is it's research based rather than some of the equip funding and other things. But I'll try to clarify with Jim McDonald tomorrow and get back to people on that.
Thank you, Dr. Lansing. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Karki. I know that LaMonica has to jump off the call shortly, so were there any additional questions for her? In the chat, I saw that Lorian had asked something about the dependent age. Was the change in dependence for SNAP, was it just for SNAP or was it for the other programs as well? And LaMonica had said the change would be for SNAP. Did you want to say anything else about it?
No, I was just going to say, I'm not 100% sure if there were changes for Medicaid. That's just, I'm not as up to date on Medicaid, but it'll go on, it is in effect for, will go into effect for SNAP eligibility.
Great, thank you.
Any
I have
other
a quick
questions?
question.
Oh, go ahead, Lindsay.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Hi, this question's for LaMonica. Thank you so much for the updates. It was super helpful. This one is related to the immigration portion of the SNAP updates. I was just taking some notes. So did you say, and I saw someone else ask this in the chat, but just clarifying that refugees and asylees in Maryland are still eligible?
So currently right now it is business as usual. So
Okay.
our asylees and our refugees, as well as there's a host of others that are typically eligible for SNAP as long as they meet the other SNAP requirements. For our other immigrant households, so for these households, like if you have a child that's under the age of 5, you're typically eligible. For our other immigrant households, there is still a 5-year waiting period to be eligible for SNAP. So it's still business as usual until we get some more specific guidance from USDA or from USDA as well as from DHS. But the notices that were shared out by USDA, HHS, and I feel like there's a few others, they kind of doubled down on the fact that our immigrant households, specifically these populations, are not eligible. So not just our immigrant and mixed status households in general, it was specifically mentioning asylees, refugees, and these current households that have exemptions. It was specifically geared towards these households. So not our immigrant households in general. But we don't have any guidance yet from USDA or from DHS on what that would look like, or how we would handle that. We have had questions from some of our LPR households if they're going to be impacted, but it was just for those particular groups that currently have an exemption. And there was one more thing I was going to say. Oh, it does not impact school meals, WIC, and summer EBT. So there are no eligibility, there's no immigration requirement for school meals for WIC. So that's not included in there. So our households, our children that reside in these households are still eligible. That's not being impacted. The other new piece that was included in this, and And again, no guidance has been shared, so business as usual until we hear anything else. Head Start has been considered a benefit program. So that is the new one, is Head Start as well. So if anyone has any specific guidance on Head Start, that would be helpful as well. But Head Start was lumped into that as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lindsay. And Heather, you were next.
Yeah, thanks so much, LaMonica, and everyone for your expertise, which is guiding us through some really complicated waters. So we got a question from one of our SNAP Outreach partners just this morning, who was indicating that children under 5 who are eligible are now required to have a guardian on their application if their parents are not documented. So I think that, obviously those are the mixed status families that you're talking about. And they said that it's a new policy. And so I'm not sure what's coming from the bill and what's coming from just other policy or administrative changes, but that's also required for Sunbucks now. And so, just wondered if you had any thoughts on that or what's driving that. And if that's tied to legislative changes or just operational policies.
So a lot of this is being tied to the changes that are in the budget reconciliation bill. And so again, we haven't received any specific guidance from DHS. And I have posed that question, but we haven't received any specific guidance in terms of how to proceed forward, which is why I say business as usual and continuing to process our applications as the law currently stands. A lot of the provisions within the budget bill did go into effect July 3rd when the bill was passed, but there is still guidance that we have to have from USDA and from the state agency on how we're going to implement that. And we're not there yet. We don't know what that's going to look like. I think until we have that guidance, and I see LaBelle's hand popped up, so I appreciate that, but we haven't received any. So LaBelle, I'm going to let you tap in and answer the rest of that question.
Great day. Hi, LaBelle here. And I'm walking into the hot seat as the new director of the Office of Nutrition Assistance Program. We do apologize for not being able to have official updates to provide today. When I say us, I mean DHS. A part of it is just because of competing interests and also changes organizationally. So we want to make sure that whatever information we do put out is, factual information, and we do not want to cause any greater frenzy. So I thank you all for the updates that you provided today. I want to make sure that I'm clear that there has been no changes to our operational procedures to date. So the way that you applied for benefits the day before the bill is passed is the same exact way that you could apply for benefits and be determined eligible today. So that's the one thing that I definitely want to confirm based on what I heard Heather, I think it was Heather saying, in terms of someone was informed that there were some changes to eligibility criteria. I just want to let you know that that is incorrect at this point in time. The eligibility and the way that we're processing things are the same today as they were the day before the bill. Until, yet again, we get formal guidance on how to operationalize the revisions within the bill. Thank you. Back to whoever was facilitating.
Thanks, LaBelle. Joe, Lou, did you have a question?
I just want to pile on to the things haven't changed part from the charitable food assistance perspective. At the Capillary Food Bank, we do not require any immigration verification in any of our services, require any of our partners, and we rely on a couple things in law legally. One, there's been a longstanding Attorney General ruling that says all food assistants, food pantries, soup kitchens, etc., are treated like police and fire services as essential to the health and life of communities. And so all the immigration requirements that come by executive order or otherwise in statute don't apply as well as there's a specific statutory language that says that nonprofits cannot be required to conduct income verification. So you might have heard a lot about Head Start making undocumented children ineligible. There are some open questions about whether a Head Start agency can be required to do immigration verification. So all that is to say, it's confusing, but on the charitable food assistance side, from our perspective, nothing has changed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. Let's see. And we actually had another question for you in the chat, which you answered, but so others hear it too. Lorian had asked which clients will be affected by the higher copays for doctor's visits. Would it be for all Medicare recipients? And you wrote that the bill allows $35 co-payments in Medicaid, although certain services like primary care, mental health, and substance use disorder services would be exempt. Is there anything else to say with that topic, Joe?
I don't think so. That's what I know from just flipping through the bill. But how this gets played out in managed care organizations, for example, I'm not so sure. And this is who has the flexibility to determine that? Is it state plan level or managed care plan level? All open questions.
Thank you so much. And then there was a question from Julia, I believe. She had said something, I believe this is more towards MSDE. She wrote, to build on a question around numbers, she's been trying to brainstorm ways to calculate the impact that we might see in schools and hasn't come up with a great way to try and predict actual numbers around drops in ISP and direct certification over the next few years. Has anyone else been thinking through ways to capture that estimate? If Julia is still here, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, thanks. And that doesn't have to be a question that gets answered right now. I just wanted to throw it out there because it's definitely something that's top of mind for me. And if anyone has ideas or wants to brainstorm together, I just think it's important to try to capture that data. But it is really challenging when we don't really know what the full scope of the impact is going to be. So I'm happy to chat with anyone offline if that's a conversation you all want to have.
Great, thank you so much, Julia. Any other questions or comments for our speakers before we just open it up for roundtable updates?
Annika, for what it's worth, I heard through a colleague who was at a meeting with a couple lobbyists that work on the Hill that their expectation right now is that the Senate would not take up the Farm Bill until next year. But as we've seen, things change, and yeah. But that's one data point on current thinking of that.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's helpful to know. Anybody else? Okay, opening up the floor for any other updates, anything that you want to share from your organization, stuff like that. And if there's nothing, I will say thank you so much to everyone who participated in this and provided these really, really helpful updates. And we will be posting the recording to the website as soon as it is ready. Thank you all.
Actually, I would like to say one thing real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Governor Moore was at MDA yesterday for the Buy Local Cookout, and we launched the Buy Local Challenge. So everybody eat local, please.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone. This has been very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right.